So why did he take the risk? Why did he stick his neck out and go over there to Copenhagen?
Well, I don't know how he
was it downtown boosterism he had to do it?
Absolutely. I mean, he's a Chicagoan. He's got a lot of pressure. I think that Brazil was making. They were going to go to the mat with their leader getting over there as well. Look, if this was the result and he hadn't tried, we'd be talking about that.
Right. Do you remember, David?
Yes.
Yes. Wait.
I agree with that.
Do you remember the huge uproar on talk radio and cable TV and the outrage among conservatives and liberals alike when New York City lost the Summer Olympics in July 2005 under George W. Bush? I mean, do you remember that great outrage? It didn't happen. Because we're now in an era where everything is chewed over for at least 12 hours, which is probably about the lifespan.
Putin tried to sell the Russia Federation for one of these. Right. Tony Blair successfully did. Isn't it become the norm that the head of government goes out and makes the pitch?
Right. Well, as recently as 2005, President Bush did a video presentation. They had a kind of, as I recall, draft Hillary Clinton to give them the star power. But now, yes, it has become more common, although you do kind of question the staff work. I guess you have to ask.
Not knowing that he wouldn't be in the finals.
Would you put the president on the plane unless you had a strong indication that you were at least going to be in the finals, if not having a clear path?
Is this going to be like Jimmy Carter losing the Marine Marathon? Is this going to become a metaphor for failure? Remember that back in the 80s?
I mean, look, I think it's combined with other things right now. I think on a Friday when he goes to Europe and he loses the games and he has to come home and deal with the fact that he's got unemployment inching toward 10%. I mean, this is a huge problem. It's a huge test. So, yeah, I mean, all that narrative.
Will the right-wing guys like Rushbo pay a price for really talking down the hopes of America? Why would they cheer? I think they missed a beat here. Cheering the fact we've lost the Olympics, is that popular among the red-blooded guys that watch the show?
No.
Don't they root for America, those guys?
One of my colleagues today at National Journal was at an Americans for Prosperity meeting, which is a conservative group that's been active in opposing health care, and cheers erupted in the room when it was announced that the U.S. lost because it was seen as a blow to Obama. I mean, that is kind of the combative nature of the politics we're in. This will be seen as a symbol of failure if Obama is seen as a failure. But this is not going to decide whether or not he is seen as a failure. What David talked about is more important. If the events of the next year, of unemployment, if the events on Capitol Hill, health care, climate change, etc., cause him to be seen as a failure, people will look at this. But if, in fact, he stabilizes, the economy improves, and he gets some of his legislative activities done, we will be done talking about this by about this time tomorrow.
The big picture, the global stuff. Isn't it common sense that the third world, which has a lot of votes, Africa has a lot of votes, would be thinking, hey, we keep giving these events to the North. Right. I mean, even Sydney is white guys in Australia. It's basically they're living down there, but they came from England and Ireland. Isn't it time for the South, the Southern Hemisphere, to have a shot at one of these things? Wasn't that a big factor here?
I think there is, and I think that there's also just a sense that in terms of all the revenue that the U.S. gets, USOC gets, from the games, from the TV portion of it, that it just seemed that there was an imbalance. I mean, look, Mitt Romney has made the point that this was a no-brainer, that Obama should have done it. He was disappointed that it didn't work out.
So he was for him going over there.
Absolutely, and said he did the right thing.
The irony is, and David probably experienced this in L.A. in 1984, if, in fact, Chicago would have won, half the city would have visited their sister in Wisconsin that week. I mean, it is kind of a mixed blessing in the modern era with all of the security and the cost. And when New York City was bidding, it was a very controversial idea, spending all of the money they wanted to spend at that time on a new stadium and other things. I think Chicago is a a little different for the reasons that we've talked about. It is a city that kind of, very much wants to be on the national stage. Here tonight, and this is an unusual night for me to have so much IQ. Maybe I've got 300 points here. Let's keep talking sports.
I want to know. Let's get off the sports for a second. I want you to prep your brains for the big question when we come back to this break. And you have about 3 or 4 minutes. Is there a battle within the Republican Party that has started with Lindsey Graham's comments, with Steve Schmidt's comments, all at this thing with the Atlantic, your organization, about the first draft of history, where the brain people, the people who are sane, who want to win the White House back as soon as next time, have really decided it's enough. It's enough with the birthers. It's enough with the Palins. It's enough with the people on the fringe. If you want to rule this country, you got to get to the center.